On Saturday, November 2nd, starting at noon, Kevin Williams is helping sick kids by playing video games. He needs your help to raise $1,000 for the CHIO Foundation. Donate at extra-life.org/participants/347875.
Lights, camera, action.
Welcome to Ropes to Reels, part of WrestleMedia, where everything is wrestling, and wrestling is everything. I'm at Adam Conta. Drew Ferris, at Sir F Word, is away this week, and in his place, one of my longest-running friends at this point. You've outlasted a lot of them. Good for you, sir. And also, not only one of our patrons, but one of our advertisers here on WrestleMedia. So, actually, I was obligated to bring him on. Basically, once we run out of hosts, we just turn to our sponsors. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kevin Williams. Thank you so much for being on the show today, Kevin.
It's always good to come in and take over for the lack of talent that's Drew Ferris.
Man, that's rough. You never even met Drew. He is gonna plot your demise.
Well, I mean, it's just, you can't even come in. Like, you messaged me today. I mean, like, come on, like, you just up and abandons you right at the last second. Like,
well, I'll tell you something. I would just be careful because Drew is the one who picked this week's movie. And that means that there may be an Acme bomb or an anvil or a coyote coming after you in your future. So I would just watch your back is all I'm saying.
Yeah, please. It's Acme. It'll fail and blow up in his face.
Well, let's not get into the movie just yet, Kevin. First, I want to...
Spoilers.
Yeah, no doubt. First, I want to send a quick shout-out to everyone who has subscribed to our newsletter. If you listened to the latest episode of The Wrestling Show, you heard our big winner for our SummerSlam contest. We sent our good friend Jordan Griffiths out to SummerSlam, the biggest party of the summer for WWE in Toronto. He's going. Who knows what kind of contest we'll have next as part of our newsletter. And all you have to do to sign up is go to our website, WrestleMedia.ca. It's completely free. You'll get your newsletter every single week, and you'll get to know about all the big highlights from the world of WrestleMedia. It may even include this show, Kevin. So you may be a big highlight for the newsletter this week. Who knows?
Oh, please. It's so exciting to have to listen to my sultry voice.
Well, some would say so. I'm sure you have your fans out there. And speaking of which, you have your own little platform in which you like to promote video games and charity work. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that before we jump into things today?
Yes. So I take part in an annual event called Extra Life, which is a 25-hour gaming marathon to raise funds for Children's Miracle Network. And it's really nice because when you sign up to participate, it's not like all the money just goes to whatever charity they decide. When you sign up, you choose the Children's Miracle Network hospital that you want your funds to go to. And so for me, all of the donations given to me go to CHIO, the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario. The official game weekend is always the first weekend in November. It starts at 8 a.m. and it goes on Saturday, it goes till 8 a.m. Sunday. Me personally, I usually start around noon because I like to sleep in a little bit. But because it's the first weekend in November, it's the time change weekend. So instead of being 24 hours, it's actually 25.
You're going the extra mile by putting in the extra hour.
Exactly. This will be my 8th year participating in it.
Impressive.
Yes. I'm hoping to get a lot more donations this year than we have in the past. Again, more donations helps more children. If you want to help out, you can go to extra-life.org and search for Kevin Williams. And if you want to check it out, I live stream the entire event on Twitch at twitch.tv/SCG_duckshot.
Well, there you have it. And while we're on the subject of charities, I quickly want to shout out Fighting Back. They're going to be having their big show on August the 16th featuring Cody of AEW fame. He's going to be there. There will be more surprises to come, I'm sure. Make sure you look up C4 Wrestling or Fighting Back on Facebook for more details on when and where you can get tickets. You're going to want to get them fast. As I've heard, more people have been interested in this show than in any other year that they have been putting it on. So these are going to go real fast. Make sure you get yours as soon as you can. Now, I want to ask about Duckshot. Clearly, that's in reference to your name, Duck, which was a nickname that you were bestowed many years ago.
For the better part of half my life, I've been going by that name.
Any sort of cartoonish influences there that we may be referring to today?
I do enjoy the occasional animated fowl creature, but that was not the reason for the creation of the name.
Okay, fair enough. Well, then we'll get into that story another time. Instead, I'd like to talk about your experience with the Looney Tunes. Were you a fan of the cartoons growing up? Did you watch the movies? What has been your prior experience with the Looney Tunes?
I have lived my entire life with the Looney Tunes. One of the earliest memories I have as a kid is every Saturday morning and afternoon watching the Bugs Bunny and Tweety show. I've always been a fan of Looney Tunes, whether it's, Bugs Bunny, Tweety show, Roadrunner Coyote show, Merry Melodies, doesn't matter what it is. I have always loved those characters.
I was a big fan of Sylvester and Tweety Mysteries when they came out with that a little bit later on in the 90s. I also grew up watching the Looney Tunes cartoons, mostly the Bugs Bunny and Tweety show, because it was after school and it was fun. I don't think that I got into it the way that other kids did. I think maybe it just kind of was lost on me. Maybe the slapstick wasn't my thing when I was younger. I started to appreciate them more as I became a teenager, and then, of course, as I became an adult, I really started to appreciate them. But as a kid, Space Jam was my jam. I'm not going to lie to you. I loved Space Jam. I remember I went and I saw it, and I just thought it was the greatest movie ever. That year for Christmas, I'm fairly certain that I asked Santa Claus for the soundtrack, which, by the way, pretty awesome. The soundtrack might actually be the best thing about Space Jam, and probably about half a dozen Space Jam action figures, which I ended up getting under the tree, and I was so happy to have. Looking back on it now, I can kind of understand why I'm in the minority with that group, but I was 12. What can I say? I was 12. I love the Looney Tunes, and it was kind of cool to see Michael Jordan dunking baskets with Bugs Bunny. Pretty cool experience for me. What did you think of Space Jam?
I'll admit, I loved it as a kid, and now that I'm an adult, what's supposed to be passable as an adult. I enjoy it for entirely different reasons than when I was a kid.
We're talking about the kind of reasons like Mystery Science Theater reasons, right?
Yes, yes. There is a reference to that in what we're going to be talking about today.
All right, and we're going to jump into that in a second. Bring things back and around to Space Jam here. We'll give you a free fun fact before we pull that from under all of our free listeners and give it only to our patrons, and let you know that Looney Tunes Back in Action actually started as a sequel to Space Jam, but it actually morphed into something very, very different. And we're going to talk about that different thing in just a moment. But before we do that, we have to ask a very important question, a question that we ask every single week. Kevin?
What in the rocket-propelled pantaloons does this have to do with professional wrestling?
I don't know if that joke was genius or just stupid.
Just like this movie.
Pretty much. Big Bill Goldberg, baby. If you watched our Ready to Rumble episode, you know that's how I will refer to Goldberg forever now as Big Bill Goldberg, baby. Bill Goldberg was it Mr. Smith? Agent Smith? He's a secret agent. He's a henchman. Top henchman.
Some kind. Yeah.
Top goon is what we can call him. What did you think? I think Bill did a pretty good job as Top Goon in this.
I think they definitely went the smart route with keeping his character very similar to him from WCW in that he never said anything. Just stand there, look intimidating.
You're right. Good. Although at the time of its release, he was signed with WWE. So a very interesting little kind of dynamic he had going on there. Now, later on in the second half, the back half, if you will, of the show for our patrons, we're going to talk about what wrestler was the original choice to play Goldberg's character, because it wasn't always Big Bad Bill. So keep that. You got that to look forward to, patrons. Everyone listening to us for free. Still time to sign up at patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca. All right, Kev, let's jump right into this film. Let's talk about our heat and our shine. What did you like about the movie? What didn't you like about it?
What I liked about it is going to be a very short list. I will admit there were some okay casting choices. Brendan Fraser, it's a little cheesy, but I do enjoy a lot of the movies that he's done. And Timothy Dalton, obviously the lesser known Bond, but he did okay in this. And it may have been a horrible role, but just Steve Martin eating up the scenery every time he's on screen. That was the most enjoyable thing about the movie for me.
Can we agree that Steve Martin is the best part of this movie?
Absolutely.
And I mean, he really just took to this and said, well, I'm just going to be a human cartoon character. And he actually has, I think, the best jokes in the film. Like, all of the stuff that I laughed at came from his performance. He's just a naturally funny guy.
Yeah.
And as for Brendan Fraser, you know, I like him a lot. I think he's a very underrated performer. I feel bad because it seems like this would be right up his alley. Like this, George of the Jungle, Dudley Do-Right. You know, he's used to playing these Monkey Bone, for goodness sake. He's used to playing these kind of leading man roles in these not very good movies, and I feel bad for him because I feel like outside of The Mummy, the dude has never gotten a real juicy role. I feel like it's time for a Brendan Fraser resurgence. Like, somebody needs to give him a role that puts him back on the map. Can we Keanu his career, please?
Yes, please.
Can somebody please write a script for Brendan Fraser and get him back in the A-list?
I'm not entirely sure how that would be feasibly possible, but I would appreciate it.
That's what I'm saying. I would too. He deserves it. Here he's, you know, gosh, is he trying?
Oh God, he's trying so hard.
But let's face it. I mean, he doesn't have anything to work with here. This not a very good script, and I mean, he's doing his affable best to be the smoldering leading man, but he can't do anything with it when he's got nothing to chew on.
When your co-stars are two fictional characters that you have no way to play off of. Three. I forgot about Jenna Elfman.
Ooh, so shots fired.
It's really hard to get a good performance across.
Also, shame on you, because I love Jenna Elfman, and I think she got it even worse in this movie than Brendan Fraser did. She had even less to do, even less to work with, and I think she's great. So I honestly love both of those two. I just think that they had nothing to work with, and they had zero chemistry together. Everything felt forced, but let's be honest, I'm getting ahead of myself here. That's a problem with the greater tone of this film overall, is that everything feels forced. Everything feels like it's just kind of there because it had to be there. And I don't know if that's Joe Dante's fault. I don't know if that's Goldberg's fault, not Bill Goldberg, but Evan Goldberg, who was writing it.
Two Goldbergs.
Two Goldbergs. I don't know if that's Warner Brothers' fault. I mean, if you talk to Joe Dante, he lumps all of the blame on Warner Brothers.
Well, and to be fair, I mean, I'm not trying to say, well, one's absolutely right, one's absolutely wrong, but I can definitely see it. I mean, studios have a history, especially Warner Brothers, with meddling with whatever they're doing and trying to take creative control. Look what happened with the DC Extended Universe. I mean, there were clear studio intrusions there.
I don't know. I think some would argue that the Warner Brothers were the saviors of those movies because of the direction they were going.
Well, me personally, I think it's because of their interference that they went the way they did. They wanted more accessibility, more inclusion, and it's just like, no.
Oh, no, I like Justice League, but we can move on.
Well, Justice League was okay. I will say this, Justice League, a little off topic, but Justice League was the only DC movie where I walked out of it and I went, yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that again.
Right? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Not so bad. Getting back to Looney Tunes.
Yes. But with this one, I can kind of give, I mean, based on the prior history, it does appear that way. I mean, because we got a movie where Joe Dante had total creative control, which you've also reviewed on this show before. One
of my favorite reviews that we've ever done. It's it's your favorite review that we've done.
My all-time favorite episode, and it's just total hilarity.
Go back. I think it's within the first 10 episodes of Ropes to Reels.
Yeah, it's a fairly early one.
We're talking about Gremlins 2, in case you don't know. Stick around for the end. We have a post-credits moment on that one that is also one of my favorites.
I'll admit, like, going into this, I didn't know Joe Dante directed this movie, but I looked at all of the cast and crew afterwards, and I went, yeah, that does kind of make sense based on some of the actors that were in this.
And I mean, it's very clear that Dante has a love for the Looney Tunes. You definitely see it in his earlier work, and you can see here that he loves those characters. It feels like this entire run length was just basically 90 minutes of him going, hey, remember this? This character. And therein, I think, is one of the bigger problems with this film, is that it is very loosely tied together in what could be generously called a movie. And it feels more like several Looney Tunes shorts kind of stapled together, which in itself is not necessarily a bad thing.
No, I mean, and they've done that in the past. Like, that's what the original feature-length Looney Tunes movies were, is just they would take the original cartoons and stitch them together with these interspersed parts that made some semblance of a plot.
But here's my thing, though. If you're going to do that, just do that. Just say, look, we're just going to make a bunch of Looney Tunes shorts, and we're going to very loosely bookend them with some other stuff here, but we're really just doing a bunch of series of shorts. You know, there are movies like that. Anthology movies do exist, and they can be done very, very well. But done like this, where they're trying to string it all together through one narrative, becomes a huge problem, especially when the last 30 minutes is about stuff that we don't really care about by the end of it. It's just not well put together. That's the biggest problem with this film, is that it feels like you're taking a break every 5 or 10 minutes for either a sketch or a plot that you just
synopsis.
Right, that you don't really care about because you've spent so much time on these cartoon characters that you don't care about the human characters. So you either have to get rid of one or the other.
And I think that's due mainly to the success of Space Jam, that they wanted to try and piggyback onto that. So they said, well, let's do another live-action animation combination because that worked really well with Space Jam. But Space Jam had a cohesive plot. It wasn't an attempt to put all of these individual cartoons together into a movie. It was just start to finish its own separate thing. Yes, there were some interspaced references to Looney Tunes cartoons of the past, but nothing to the extent like it was with Back in Action.
And I think you may be right, and maybe that is where the major problem comes into play here, because Dante has said that Warner Brothers was the reason this movie turned out so terrible. And if your theory is correct about them wanting to make another Space Jam and needing to have human interaction with it, it's very possible that that's where the main conflict came in, because Dante has said that he just wanted to do a tribute to the Looney Tunes. And he may have just wanted to put together a series of shorts based on what they've done in the past. But Warner Brothers, looking at their past success, has said, no, this is the way we have to do it. We've got to come up with something. And then, you know, when your heart's not in it, it shows. And it definitely did show in this, which is too bad, because it's not like that format has been a failure in the past. Space Jam was a critical success, was a financial success, not so much critical. But take a look at something like Roger Rabbit, which was done decades previously, and both a critical and a financial success, right? So, I mean,
absolutely.
But that's the difference. Is Zemeckis was into it, all the way into it. And I feel like Dante was only into half of this movie.
Well, and I think it also comes down to that it was still also a different studio, because it was Disney, not Warner Brothers. And Disney has a habit of saying, like, okay, you know, we'll let you do your own thing, but we're going to make sure that it kind of stays along a certain plot.
On brand. It's got to make sure it stays on brand.
Exactly. Whereas Warner Brothers, it's just kind of like, let's add this and let's do this and people will like this, so let's put that in. And it ends up just becoming a disconjointed mess.
Can we talk about the terrible music in this movie?
Oh, God. Oh, my God. Like we were talking about, you know, how good of a soundtrack Space Jam had, and this is the exact opposite end of the spectrum.
Like, let's be honest, there was not a lot of great music in the early 2000s.
Oh God.
But this is like the bargain bin of the early 2000s. Man, I couldn't even tell you anybody who appeared on this. No. On this movie, and the music they used, it sounded like stuff they would have saved for a direct, you know, it's like one of those Scooby-Doo movies that we've reviewed in the past. But I like the music in those better.
Which also, again, Scooby-Doo reference.
That's right. Yeah, out of nowhere.
They're doing this big car chase scene through Las Vegas, and we're listening to some song like a California surfer song, and I'm like, what is this? How does this connect to a car chase?
And it's also a bad song.
It's not good to begin with.
I don't even have a problem if it doesn't necessarily seem out of place. I mean, if you throw a good song in there, I don't care. Like, put some Johnny Cash in there. At least I'll be like, that's a good song. Yeah. I mean, it makes no sense here, but it's good at least.
But again, Gremlins 2. Let's just say that.
Well,
it makes no sense. Gremlins 2.
Here's the problem with that, though. You can't have your cake and eat it too. It comes back to this idea of, like, you can't have a show or a movie that makes absolutely zero sense, and then still expect us to follow along with a story and a plot, and honestly,
I felt half and half.
I felt the same problems with. I felt there was the same issue with Gremlins 2, which is that Joe Dante just wanted to do a whole bunch of weird stuff with the Gremlins, which is fine. But then when you get back to the story, it's like, oh God, I don't care. Just go back to that smart Gremlin.
But that's the thing. But here's the thing. There wasn't really a story.
No, it's just madness.
There was no overriding plot. Like there wasn't this big bad guy trying to control the world. It was just this quote unquote story was just an excuse for the Gremlins to take over this building.
I refer you back to the Key and Peele sketch that we originally pulled that quote from, because that pretty much sums it up right there. It's just literally them going, what kind of gremlin? A garden gremlin. Okay. What kind of gremlin? An electric gremlin. Okay. And I felt like that was kind of the same idea here. Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, they just kind of went down the line and were like, okay, we got to do something with them, got to do something with them, got to do something with them. I will say that I like the animation. I thought it looks pretty good. At least let me reframe that. The hand-drawn animation. Yes. The characters are great. Even for 2003, some of this CGI is pretty bad.
Oh God, yeah.
It's very video gamey. Mm-hmm. Not to insult your art of choice or anything. I'm talking about 2003 video gamey.
Yeah. I don't even think it would have. Yeah, no, that was still the PS2 generation. Yeah, no, yeah, definitely a lot of games in 2003 would have had that level of animation.
They're trying, clearly they are, but it just, it sticks out like a sore thumb. And we're talking about a movie with, an animated duck and a rabbit here. So yeah, it's pretty bad all around. Now that being said, some stuff made me laugh. Like I said, anything with Steve Martin in it did genuinely get a chuckle out of me. I loved some of the cameos. Like I said, if you know the references, if you know your references, you probably get a lot of enjoyment out of this movie because there are so many. If you don't, however, I think the casual viewing audience probably wouldn't enjoy this movie. And on the back half of the episode, we're going to talk about whether the casual viewing audience like this movie or not. But in the meantime, we're going to talk about like some of the stuff that I actually did get a kick out of, that I did enjoy from it. I do think it's a really good looking movie. I do think that the blending of live action and animation is actually fairly seamless. When they did have some action in it, it's really good. We were complaining about the car chase scene in Vegas earlier, but the stunt work there is awesome.
Oh yeah, no, like the car chase itself from a visual standpoint is great. It doesn't make sense with the music choice.
No, it doesn't. But trying to keep things on a positive spin, I liked the action. I thought the action was well done. I thought any of the physical stuff was pretty good. I have to ask, did you have a favorite gag in the movie? Was there anything in it that particularly made you laugh or go, okay, that's pretty good?
I'm always a sucker for Duck Dodgers.
Yeah, where he keeps saying his name and he keeps blowing up.
Duck, boom. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, but personally, I did enjoy the Walmart Mirage.
Yeah. Okay, you know what? All right, now I'm going to have to bring this up. I think another issue with this movie is that it tries to be self-referential, and I think they missed the mark with it. I know that was the Looney Tunes style. They often played to the fourth wall and that sort of thing. Yeah. But I feel like there's a certain tinge of cynicism that goes along with these Hollywood stars looking at the camera and saying, it's product placement, people expect it. And I guess that they're trying to make that as a joke, as if to say, oh, get it? We're putting this in here and we're making a joke about it, so it's okay. But I don't think it is okay. I think it just makes me want to roll my eyes even more and go, oh my God, that is such a cheap out as to say, oh, it's breaking the fourth wall, so it's okay. It feels like an excuse, not an actual reason for a gag.
Yeah, and again, like it's something, if you look back at Gremlins 2, it's something that Joe Dante is a fan of doing, is fourth wall breaking. But the ones in this one just kind of, it feels very contrived. Like, again, there was no passion behind it. It's just like, oh, okay, let's just do a fourth wall break here. And then it's, like, I could see what they were going for, but it just, like you said, it just fell short of the mark.
Like I said, playing to the camera and stuff is fine in the right context, but I feel doing that as a way to justify blatant product placement I don't know, maybe audiences are just jaded. Maybe I'm just jaded, but I felt like that missed the mark, and it made me go, no, that's not really funny. It's just it's an easy out for you. It's a cop out is what you're doing. So
exactly. Like, again, they want to make that fourth wall joke, but they're going to do it in the cheapest, easiest way possible.
Yeah. I will say this, though. I did enjoy Timothy Dalton slapping himself over and over again.
That was entertaining.
That probably was my favorite joke of the entire movie. The whole machine where... See, because I didn't know what they were doing with that. I had no idea where he was going with it. I thought he was going to shock him with it. And then when he pushes the button and he starts slapping himself, I was like, okay, you know what? That's kind of funny.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and Timothy Dalton was good in this, too. I liked him in this. I mean, he had a small part, but I thought he did well.
I did have a particularly frustrating scene in this one, though.
Okay.
When they first introduced Taz, and then they have the VP of never learning his lesson, basically.
Yeah.
And they basically, he gets 2 lines in, he sounds like this ultra nerd, and one of them is after he's already been turned into a skeleton by Taz.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there going, what a horrible way to use Ron Perlman in this movie.
And you know what? That's one of my favorite jokes in the entire thing.
Yeah, like you see him this, like, up until this is like the last time you see the evil corporate board behind the chairman, and you see him the entire time. Like, oh my God, it's Ron Perlman. He's gonna get this great moment. And then it happens. You're like, really? That's it? Really?
I think a lot of people asked to be in this movie, or when they were reached out to, were probably Looney Tunes fans and said, yeah, I don't care what I'm doing. I just want to be in a Looney Tunes movie. And I'm assuming that's probably what it was here. I thought it was cool that Ron Perlman was there talking like a nerd. I don't know if they ADR'd him or if that was him doing that voice.
I guarantee you that was him.
If it was, I'm impressed. And if it wasn't, still just funny, the idea that they gave him this completely unexpected voice for those in the know. Like I said, a lot of inside winks and nods in this. And sometimes, and in that case, it definitely worked for me. Hey, this is a commercial for patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca, where you can get early access to episodes of your favorite WrestleMedia shows, get full uncut and uncensored versions of your favorite shows, and more. Don't want to hear this commercial on your podcast anymore? Sign up at our main event tier and get these episodes ad-free. Want to hear your own commercial here instead of ours? We've got tiers for that too. Visit patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca and join the WrestleMedia revolution today. All right, so we've talked about what we like, what we didn't like. Kevin, let's go ahead and give our final rating for the movie. Is this one a mid-carder, is it a jobber, or is it a main eventer?
This is a dark match.
You really didn't like it.
No. Again, as somebody who grew up with Space Jam as a kid, and it's like, yes, that movie had problems, but it was still, even to this day, it was still a okay attempt to bring the Looney Tunes into a real world situation. This is just clearly a cash grab. There was no heart, no feeling put into this movie. There were a few good things about it, but that had nothing to do with the actual really production of the movie. I wouldn't pay to see this movie ever.
Well, I did pay to see this movie. I rented it. I watched it for the first time, and although it's not like want my money back level, it's still bad. And I would agree with your rating of a jobber. I won't quite go as far as dark match. Sometimes dark matches can be good. Jobbers, though, nope. This one is probably a skip it. I can't recommend it. There's just not enough there for me to go like, oh God, yeah, go and check this out. Maybe if there's like a Steve Martin compilation on YouTube somewhere showing all of his best stuff, okay, go for that, because he's the only really consistently good thing in this flick. Everything else kind of falls flat. So yeah, I agree. It's a jobber. So neither Kevin nor myself can recommend this one. Of course, what do we know? Go and watch it for yourself if you're a fan of the Looney Tunes, or you want to give this one a shot, or you're interested based upon what we saw. Like we said, Goldberg's okay. So go and check that out. Otherwise, and let us know what you thought about it, or you can answer our social media question. Yeah, I bet you didn't know that we were on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Well, we are. And we want you to answer our question. Who is your favorite Looney Tune? That's a good question, right? Who's your favorite Looney Tune?
Well, I'm kind of typecast into picking Daffy Duck. But,
True.
Outside of that, I'd have to go with Taz.
He's a pretty interesting character.
Yeah,
He's very complex.
Especially in the older cartoons, because he only had a handful of episodes.
Did you like that show, Tasmania?
I actually did love Tasmania.
That's a classic. If anybody out there has never seen that show, go out of your way to look it up. All the mid-90s Warner Brothers cartoons are pretty good, too.
Of all the references they made in that whole thing, the one thing that upset me is when the water tower's falling over and they don't have the Animaniacs run out before it lands.
That's a missed opportunity. You're
exactly.
Right. Yeah, I think so. Hard for me to pick. I'll probably go with, Sylvester the cat has always been a favorite of mine, more so nowadays because he is a cat. And that's what I'll go with. Maybe we should have asked which Looney Tune would make a great wrestling gimmick. There's the question we should be asking. Which Looney Tune do you think makes the best wrestling gimmick?
I'm going to completely ignore the fact that they have had a wrestler as a Looney Tune.
Okay.
Which he was the cartoon guy for the stuntman.
Auditions. That's right. The Just Passing By. Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And they did have Ravishing Ronald as well, his opponent before the match got started.
Yeah. I would probably have to go with Elmer Fudd, because that guy can take a hell of a lot of punishment.
That is an excellent choice. I would say put a mask on Speedy Gonzalez, and you've got a great luchador right there. Although I think we could also make the obvious reference that Taz is an actual wrestler.
Actually, yeah. But
not quite as wild, but
Yeah.
So there you have it, folks. Follow us on social media. Answer that question. We would love it if you did. We'd also love it if you would rate and review us on iTunes. Give us a positive review and score us 5 stars. It's your chance to be Dave Meltzer or your favorite movie critic right here for this podcast. Thank you so much for listening and tuning in on the free version of the show. On the back half, we've got more stuff for our patrons, including some fun facts, and Kevin and I may have a little more fun, maybe doing some recasting in this movie, seeing if we could make it better using some modern day wrestlers. That's on the way for all you patrons. And if you're sitting there going, hey, I want to hear that stuff, I want to be special, okay, great. Head over to patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca, and for just a few ducats in the bucket every single month, you can get extra. You can go and check out these episodes early, or you can be like Kevin and you can advertise whatever special thing you want on our show. By the way, Kevin, you want to tell them one more time where they can go and check out your special thing?
It's at extra-life.org and search for Kevin Williams. And if you want to watch the live stream, it's twitch.tv/SEG_duckshot.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Thank you very much, listeners. Thank you very much, patrons. Your stuff is coming up next. On behalf of WrestleMedia and for the absent Sir F Word, I'm at Adam Conta.
And I'm at Kevin Williams. No, I'm not. It's at SEG_duckshot.
And when it comes to Looney Tunes, back in action, that's a wrap.
This has been a presentation of WrestleMedia, where everything is wrestling and wrestling is everything.
Here's what you're missing out on right now over at patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca. Have you ever seen any of the deleted scenes?
No, I haven't. It's one of those things of like, if this is what they left in.
What could they possibly have taken out, right?
Yeah.
Want more? Sign up now at patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca.